People get vested in their trauma. People get vested in their pain. If you want to know the largest drug on the planet, it's not cocaine. It's not heroin. Biggest drug on the planet is problems. The deepest fears we have are two. One is that we're not enough. And if we're not enough, it digs the deepest fear we have, which is we won't be loved. And love is the oxygen of the soul. So human beings, when they think, oh my God, if I fail at this, it'll look like I'm not enough and I won't be worthy of love. They tend to come up with a reason why that's either not their fault. It's something that was done to me. I've got ADHD. I was born with it. It becomes their reason for not being where they want to be in their life. Leverage is what makes change a must, not a should. As long as it's a should, you'll have your story. And your story could be a true story. And you'll tell your story and share your story with yourself or other people or both. And you stay stuck. But trauma it's a bruise. It's not a tattoo. Any bruise can be healed, but not unless you're vested in healing it. But most people, their problem is their drug. It's the drug against the fear that I'm not enough and I won't be loved. Even if they go, no, it's me, I'm so messed up. What they're really saying is reassure me, love me. They're wanting that connection through their problem. You got to decide there's something you value more than your problem. We all have a life story, right? Some people's life is a warning. Some people's life is an example. If your life's a warning, it still can become an example if you're alive. You have that choice. That's the greatest story of all time, the comeback story, right? So what I'm looking for is what's their story? And the story is driven by, number one, what's their desire? Merge with God? Is it to find a great relationship and have children? And then there's always, as soon as you have a desire, there's a problem, because otherwise you'd have your desire. And the problem usually is character pieces missing within yourself. You're being selfish. You're not giving enough. You're not creative enough. You're not trusting enough, something enough. And then as you go through the story of a person's life, what happens is they come up with a plan, and there's always, you end up having battles, and battles invariably are with external enemies, with intimate enemies. Like, who can hurt you more? The person you don't know or the person you love who seems to have betrayed you? And then there's the internal enemy, the conflicts within yourself. And as you fight through those battles, if you continue to grow, you come to a point where you have insights. You see what the real truth is. It isn't somebody else, it's me. This is what needs to shift. And if you see that and act on it, then life's never the same again, or life is happily ever after, as it says in every story, right? Because you've made a shift in the core values and beliefs and emotions that are driving your life. We are emotional creatures, but your effing brain isn't going to do shit. What's going to do it is enough emotion. Emotion is the power. Emotion is what starts wars. It's what ends wars. Emotion is what gets you married. Emotion is where kids comes from. Divorce is where emotion comes from. Everything that you can think of a major change in humanity, from the most extreme of war to the most gentle of love, all come from human emotion. It's like knowing what you want and having the right fuel to get there. If the fuel has no combustion, you're just bored, you're not going anywhere. If the fuel is total trauma and I'm overwhelmed, you just blow up and go nowhere. There's that delicate balance. There's two skills you got to master to have life on your terms. To have an extraordinary life, to me, an extraordinary life is life on your terms. It's not my life. For some people, that's, a white picket fence and 3 children. For some people, it's building a big business. For some people, it's being an author. It's like so many different things, poetry, music. So everybody's got to find what it is that they really love. But the skills you got to master to have life on your terms is, one, the science of achievement. How to take what I envision and make it real. And those are strategies, and they are proven strategies. There are certain rules of the game. If you want to be healthy and you want a lot of energy, everyone's biochemically slightly different, but there's certain rules. If you violate them, you're going to have low energy and dis-ease. If you align with them, you're going to have enormous energy and strength. Same thing around finance. Anyone can grow financially, but most people don't learn the basic fundamentals. Everything in the world grows or dies. Everything in the universe contributes, or it's eventually eliminated by nature. Those aren't my laws. Those are the laws of nature. However, happiness only requires that you are grateful. If you've got $1 billion and 3 beautiful children that love you and a beautiful husband or wife, but doesn't matter what you have if you're not grateful. If you live in an emotional home, a habitual pace of worry or frustration, your life's called worry and frustration. You could be making progress and still be worried and frustrated. You have to also develop a new decision that says, I'm going to live a different life. I have a a vision for my life spiritually. And that vision spiritually is I'm going to live in a beautiful state no matter what. That doesn't mean I'm never going to get upset or frustrated or pissed off. It just means I got a 90-second rule that I'm going to get out of that as fast as possible and solve it from a beautiful place so that I'm adding value to the people around me and myself. So my own biochemistry gets the benefit of that. That doesn't mean that you're always making progress. I love progress. I think progress equals happiness, but it isn't the only secret to that. It's really, can you train your brain to appreciate? Because in the middle of whatever you're pissed off about or frustrated or fearful about or worried about, you're deleting all the things you could be grateful for, you could appreciate that are absolutely real. You do not experience life. You experience the life you focus on. That's it. If you focus on what's wrong is always available. So is what's right. And so our focus produces our meanings and emotions, which produce the actions of our life. So it really starts with the patterns of your focus. Do you tend to focus on what you have or what's missing? Most achievers, that progress thing is really important. You always got to have the next thing. Well, that's really wonderful, but it's only one way of doing things. And so it's like saying to yourself, wait a second, I'm going to, whether there's progress or not, I'm going to find the good in this. I'm going to find the great in this. And what that does is it produces a different fuel to live your life from. And from that fuel, it's easy to make progress. You know, I used to tell myself I got really pissed off. My brain gets really sharp and fast and figures the answers. Well, that's true. But when I'm really in a great state, my brain is fast and quick and I enjoy it and people around me enjoy it. So it's also deciding how you're going to be, not just what you're going to do. And I think the combination of those is where the quality of life that people are really looking for shows up. If you want to know what makes people happy at the most basic level, when your life conditions match your blueprint, when your life conditions are what you're expecting, not your ultimate dream, but when you meet your basic expectations, you're happy. If your life conditions are better than you expected, you're over the moon. If your life conditions don't match your blueprint, you have pain. If your life conditions don't match your blueprint and you believe I'm unable to change it, then you're going to suffer. And so nothing is permanent. Not even the body is permanent. Certainly no problem is permanent. Your soul might be the only thing that might be permanent. So it's really helping people to understand that when the life conditions change, your blueprint has to change with it. Either like, if you're not happy, you either have to change your life or change your blueprint, your expectations. Usually it requires a combination of those two. If you don't do that, you're in trouble. There are many people during COVID who it was the most horrific experience. There are many people that learned to use COVID, not like COVID used them. They grew their businesses, they expanded their mind, they shifted their emotions. They did things they never would have done. Other people gained 20 pounds. It's all a matter of, do you adapt to the life conditions? When people say to me, I have no self-esteem. I hate that word. So overused and abused. I don't have any self-esteem because when I was growing up, my parents said these terrible things and those terrible things. And I said, isn't it convenient you only remembered those things? They said a million things, but suddenly you've honed in on those. But let's get real. Someone can tell you your whole life you're a piece of crap, but you can say, screw you, read between the lines and make your life work. Someone can tell you your whole life you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're the smartest person in the world, and you don't believe it. Because self-esteem doesn't come from what people say about you. Self-esteem is earned within yourself. It's esteem for yourself, which only comes by doing things that are incredibly difficult, and then your brain goes, this is who I am. The reason I've done firewalks for years, I used to do skydiving, but it's hard to get 30,000 people in the middle of the air above New York in the middle of the night. But the reason I did these metaphors was because when someone does something they once thought was difficult or impossible, and you get the other side, the brain goes, if I can get myself to do this, what else can I get myself to do? It changes their identity. When your identity expands, your whole world expands. One of the things you have to understand about life is everything changes and everything ends. And that kind of sounds heavy on the front end, but it's a truth. If everything changes and everything ends, number one, it should make you appreciate what you have right now. And then my view is what's next is always better. If I make it so, it's my job to make it so. I think passion is the genesis of genius. If you've got enough passion, you're going to find answers nobody else does. But most people run out of fuel, meaning they get tired, they get exhausted, they get burnt out, they get the law of familiarity. They're around something so much they take it a little bit for granted. And I've managed to see something in myself that I found in every great leader that I've ever respected, and that is I value intelligence immensely, but I know really smart people can't fight their way out of a paper bag pragmatically, right? I'm sure you do too. What I see as the one common denominator of people that are successful over a lifetime is the sustained hunger. We all define ourselves in certain ways, and most of us defined ourselves years ago, and we haven't done an update. And now you're in an environment where you're constantly told how bad it is, how terrible it is, so that stimulates the old part of the human brain. The fight or flight mechanism, the part of your brain that's always looking for what's wrong so you can hide from it, or you can fight it, or you can freeze and hope it doesn't notice, or you can run from it. And so that part of our brain is never going to make you happy. It's an important part. There's no saber-toothed tiger for us to run from anymore or fight. If identity is how you've identified yourself, and you see yourself as a procrastinator, why? Because you procrastinate so many times and disappointed, you don't want to be disappointed. So now you're a procrastinator, you're no longer disappointed. You feel certain, you'll never have your goals, but you feel certain. That's what most people do in their life. And I'm just not willing to settle for a life without passion and aliveness. That's just like, there's so much to learn, there's so much to grow, there's so much to give. Like, some people think they just want to get, but you get, and it's pretty damn boring, and it doesn't really expand your sense of identity of who you are. But if you're constantly growing and then taking what you learn, you're so excited about it, you share with other people and their life gets better, whether that be software you make or dresses you design or, something you do in the health space that really gets people to enjoy their food while they're eating well. If you have those passions and you keep growing, there's no limit. It doesn't matter what happens in the short term with a pandemic or with a drop in the economy or whatever the case may be. These are all temporary when you realize life is lived in decades, not in days.